The sky over the kingdom of Nachtaris didn't just darken, it bled. Prince Valerius stood atop the spire of skulls, his blade dripping with the ethereal essence of his own kin. He had won the duel against his younger brother, the usurper, but he had underestimated the desperation of the high priests. Therefore, as Valerius raised his sword to claim the crown, the priests didn't bow. They chanted a forbidden paradox. But Valerius was a creature of pride, refusing to retreat. Therefore, the ground beneath him didn't just crack, it dissolved into a shimmering vortex of exile. He was stripped of his silver armor, his royal blood curdled into a bestial curse, and he was cast out of the realm of gods and monsters into the fragile, mud-soaked world of men. To understand the fall, one must understand the heights of his arrogance. For centuries, Valerius was the apex predator of Nachtaris. He was the favored son, a prince who commanded the Shadow Legions. But his hunger for power was a void that no conquest could fill. Therefore, he began to dabble in the sanguine arts, consuming the souls of his subjects to prolong his youth. This cruelty horrified the Great Council, but they were too terrified of his shadow magic to intervene. Therefore, Valerius grew bolder, eventually demanding the throne, while his father, the eternal king, still drew breath. He orchestrated a coup that turned the palace into a slaughterhouse. But the king, in his final moment, whispered a secret to the younger prince, a spell of banishment that could only be fueled by a king's dying breath. The coup was a success, but the victory was ashes. The spell took hold. Valerius felt his humanity peeling away like burnt parchment. He was no longer a prince. He was a fellow seekers of the shadows to a tale spun from the tranquil heart of the whispering woods. Here, where ancient trees whisper secrets to the wind and the Oak Haven River carves its timeless path, lived Silas and Elena, a couple in their golden years. Silas, 62, a man etched with the wisdom of the earth. Elena, 53, with a warmth that could thaw the deepest winter. Their days were quiet, their children grown and away at boarding school, leaving them to the gentle rhythm of nature. Silas, a creature of habit, found his solace by that very river, his fishing rod an extension of his soul. It was on one such ordinary Tuesday, a day like any other, that the extraordinary unfolded. Near the tangled reeds he saw it, a massive canine unlike any dog he'd ever encountered. Its fur, the color of twilight mist, was matted with river silt, its breath coming in ragged gasps. It looked less like a stray and more like a dethroned monarch, clinging to life. Silas, a man whose heart bled for any creature in distress, couldn't abandon it. He saw only a helpless animal, not the ancient predatory intelligence simmering beneath those clouded eyes. With effort, he managed to get the large dog into his truck, completely unaware that he wasn't offering a lifeline, but opening a door to something far older, far hungrier than a mere stray. Back home, the creature was welcomed. Elena, initially cautious, soon succumbed to its silent, almost regal presence. They named him Shadow for his quiet movements and his ability to appear and disappear within the house's dim corners. But Shadow was no ordinary dog. He refused kibble, preferring the raw meat Silas reluctantly provided, rationalizing it as a diet for a large wild-caught animal. He rarely barked, communicating instead with intense, unwavering stares that seemed to bore into your very soul. For the first year, Shadow was a phantom, a living shadow among them. He adapted with chilling efficiency. He learned the household routines, the local wildlife paths, the intonations of human speech. He observed, he absorbed, he integrated. He walked with Silas on his fishing trips, a silent, imposing companion. He lay by Elena's feet as she read, his body a comforting weight, his mind a fortress of ancient purpose. He was learning, growing, and biding his time. The insidious part was, they loved him. They truly did. A few months into Shadow's second year with them, a special request came from the children's boarding school. A pet's day was planned, an opportunity for students to share their animal companions. Silas, proud of his majestic, if unusual dog, decided to take Shadow. It was a chance for Shadow to meet the boys, and for the boys to meet their parents' beloved new addition. The school was a hive of activity. Children squealed with delight, dogs barked and wagged. Shadow, however, was different. He didn't bark, he didn't play. He simply stood, a towering figure among the smaller, boisterous pets, his violet eyes taking in everything. The energy of the children, the sense of 100 different lives, the structured environment of learning and confinement. He cataloged it all. The teachers and children were captivated by his serene, almost noble demeanor, mistaking his chilling observation for gentle patience. Our boys, thrilled to see their parents and their imposing new pet, showered Shadow with affection. For the first time, Shadow felt the touch of his future prey. As Shadow approached the 2-year mark with Silas and Elena, the subtle cracks in his canine facade began to appear. He was no longer a puppy or even a young adult dog. His true nature, long suppressed, was asserting itself. The initial signs were almost imperceptible, easily dismissed by a couple who loved their unusual pet. The first sign was the silence. The small forest creatures, once abundant around their home, vanished. The melodic bird song near the house faded into an eerie quiet. Then came the unnatural stillness in the air, a chilling weight that descended as dusk fell, especially when Shadow was near. Silas, once robust, began to experience a profound fatigue. His skin, once ruddy from the sun, grew pale, almost translucent. Elena noticed small, unexplainable bruises appearing on his arms and neck, like tiny, faded fingerprints. She dismissed them as the clumsiness of an aging man, or perhaps a minor vitamin deficiency. But they were something far more sinister. They were the first sips, and then the true horror began to manifest. One morning, Elena found a deer carcass in their cellar, not just killed, but drained of blood, its flesh expertly, unnaturally stripped clean. It was a professional kill, a ritualistic act that spoke of ancient hunger, not animal instinct. And when she looked up, her blood ran cold. Shadow stood in the cellar doorway, his eyes, now undeniably violet, gleamed with a predatory light. He wasn't panting, he wasn't growling, he was grinning, a silent, knowing, utterly terrifying expression that no dog should ever possess. That night, the illusion shattered completely. The creature they had called Shadow stood before Silas and Elena, no longer a dog. Its fur receded, its limbs elongated, its form shifting and contorting into that of a pale, muscular man with elongated fangs and eyes like bruised galaxies. Prince Valerius, heir to the obsidian throne, banished from his subterranean kingdom, cast into our world as a beast of burden. "Your kindness was merely my gateway," Valerius hissed, his voice echoing in the small kitchen, rattling the very foundations of their world. "But kindness does not reclaim a throne. Only the lifeblood of the innocent can bridge the gap between worlds, and you, my dear hosts, have provided the perfect sustenance." The horror wasn't just in his monstrous appearance, but in his chilling intent. To return to his kingdom, to exact his bloody revenge, he needed to consume the flesh of those who had cared for him, those he had slowly, meticulously drained. He had fed on Silas's life force, but now, with their children's innocent laughter approaching, he needed the full harvest. As the innocent voices of their children echoed from the driveway, Silas and Ilna understood the true, terrifying depth of their mistake. They hadn't rescued a stray. They hadn't adopted a pet. They had invited a vampiric wolf prince into their home, into their lives, and now into a banquet where their own family was the main course. The front door creaked open, and the last sound they heard was their children's happy shouts before being swallowed by an ancient, insatiable hunger.